Okay, so ideally I would like to be able to shoot a side of this cube with a squirt gun to solve it. So something like starting here, squirting it here, and have it turn. Right now it's a little too slow, so I'm going to remove the spring. That seems a lot better. Not sure if it'll work yet, but I'm going to test it out. So far it's not working. I'm going to need to reduce friction again. I was not able to reduce the friction in the cube enough to turn it with the water gun. And this isn't as cool, but I'll still probably end up doing it. I have this box. I can hold it open with something up here, and then the last step will be moving that object out of the way, and it'll close itself. I made a Google Doc with the types of symbol machines, and the plan is to figure out what I'm going to do for each type and then draw it out. I found this video and I'm going to see if it's helpful for me. I'm having a hard time coming up with things to do for a couple of the symbol machines, such as the wedge, and I just want to see if this video will help. The video wasn't really helpful for a wedge, but I do like the idea of using a slinky as a screw and put a ball through it. I may or may not use that, but it seems like a good idea. This site seems to give a pretty good definition of a wedge. It cleared it up for me at least. It's an inclined plane that moves to do its work. That's what I was stuck on. I just wasn't sure about the difference. I'm thinking about what to do for an axle, and I think I might also use a pencil for that and attach rolls of tape or something similar to each end of it. I think after the ball or marble or whatever it is reaches the end of the inclined plane, I'm going to use a pulley. The ball is going to drop in a cup or something like that. After the cup gets all the way to the ground, it's going to pull up on a lever, most likely a ruler or something similar, attached to the other end of the string, and then release the box lid. So my plan has changed fairly significantly at this point. I spent about an hour with my mom and sister just thinking about ideas. Turns out they're both pretty much geniuses at something like this. So this is my paper with my plan, but it will most likely differ from that. So far, the plan is to use this Newton's cradle to knock this axle wheel system down here, and then it will eventually land in a slinky at the end of the table and go from there. At this point, I have finished taping together my paper ramp. My only concern is flopping down on the ends, but we'll see how that works. I'm hoping the tape will reinforce it, but I might need to figure out something else. Now I guess I'll find out if it'll hold itself up. Definitely better than one piece of paper. Not ideal, but I'll see if it's sturdy enough. Putting the ironing board on top of the table is another one of my mom's suggestions, just to give me a little bit more height to work with. And I have also added a piece of paper here just to keep the spindle above the ground, because it doesn't work very well if it's touching the table. And that's looking pretty good. I still need to figure out how to keep the ball here and hopefully keep this on the end instead of rolling off. Since I incorporated the Newton's cradle instead of my original plan, I wasn't sure what to do for a wedge once again. So I ended up attaching a piece of paper to the Newton's cradle, which will act as a wedge. If I can find something else to use it for, I might do that, but this is my backup in case I can't find another way to use a wedge. But it still works pretty similarly. The ball hits the spools, and then they roll down the ramp. In order to make the ball keep going and the spindle thing stop, I made this thing. So it's going to sit on the end like this, and it has slight folds here so the ball will hopefully stay in the middle. I might end up cutting a little slit in here so it stays more. And these raised parts should stop the spindle from falling. That worked. I'm not sure if it'll work consistently, but I'm going to leave it for now and see if it causes problems later. So I've now made this slinky thing wrapped around the roller. I did end up liking the idea from the video, so I'm just going to test it now and see if the ball will go through it. It overshot. I'll probably just attach something to the back so it stays in, but other than that, I think this will work. So I attached this piece of paper to the end. The idea is that it will flip up, but just enough to catch the ball. I'm not sure if it's sturdy enough, but that's what I'm testing it for. It looks like that'll work. Again, I don't know if it's consistent, but for now I'm going to leave it like that. At this point I have this system working pretty well. I attached it a bit more securely so it should be more reliable. And I've also built this. So this is on a slight incline. So the ball's going to come out of the slinky, roll down here, hit the paper, and change direction. So here's my first test of what I have done so far. So that did not work, but hopefully I can figure out what's going on and fix it. I ended up redesigning this fairly significantly. I started with a diagonal piece of paper, so no matter where it hits it, it'll move it roughly the same angle. And then near the end of the table, I made it go the direction I wanted it to. So hopefully that'll lead to more consistent results. There we go. Unfortunately, since this project has a large amount of paper in it, I've had to add supports in a couple places because it started wearing out. So there's a couple of books under the end of the ramp, and I added a second tray table there to support the poster board. At this point, I have also added a slat bracelet down there as a lever. I'm not going to have it contract as a slat bracelet, but it was a good length and pretty sturdy. So in theory, the ping pong ball should go through the slinky onto the black paper and then eventually hit the lever, which will leave the ping pong ball on the table and push the bouncy ball off of it. It doesn't look like there was quite enough force to move the bouncy ball, but I will work on that now. I've made a few changes since the last video, including moving the whole ironing board back so the ball will hit earlier on the paper, so around there instead of maybe there. And I've also added a lever down here. It's still the slat bracelet, but I think the change in position should make it work better because the ping pong ball will have more momentum at that point than at the edge of the table. And there we go. I've started building the pulley. This was another one of my mom's suggestions, but it's just an empty ribbon spool. I have not hooked everything up yet, but hopefully it'll work. So here's the finished product. I'm going to start the Newton's cradle, which will send this axle rolling down. It's going to hit this ping pong ball, which will go through the slinky, hit the black paper, and the ball will trigger this lever, which will send this ball down the table. It's going to fall in the cup, and when this one falls, it will lift that one up and close the box. And there you go. I'm just recording this quick conclusion now because as I was editing the video I realized I forgot to before. But this was a really fun project. I'm glad we got to do the Rube assignment to some extent, even though the full version wasn't possible due to the current world situation. I enjoyed building my machine, except for the pulley, which took over 2 hours to get right, and even now it's not as consistent as I would like. Overall though, this was a really cool project, and hopefully you enjoyed the video as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.